It's Tuesday, May 27th, AD 2025. This is the World View in 5 minutes, written by Kevin Swanson and heard on 125 radio stations and at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. The Trump administration has sent a delegation to investigate the violations of free speech in the United Kingdom. They met with 5 people who've been arrested and even convicted of praying silently near abortion mills in Glasgow, Scotland, as well as Birmingham and Bournemouth, England. At issue is the United Kingdom's equating protesting near abortion mills with silent prayer and the government's antipathy toward pro-lifers expressing their opinions about killing children. Are Americans losing a sense of patriotism? A 2023 Gallup survey found that only 39% of Americans are extremely proud of their citizenship status. And a Wall Street Journal National Opinion Research Center survey found that the percentage of Americans who considered patriotism very important has dropped from 70% in 1998 to 38% in 2023. Keep in mind Isaiah 40, verses 5 through 7. It says, "Behold, the nations are as a drop in a bucket, and are counted as the small dust on the scales. Look, the Lord lifts up the isles as a very little thing, and Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor its beasts sufficient for a burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted by him less than nothing and worthless." Russia launched 298 drones and 69 missiles on Kyiv over the weekend, reports the Associated Press. It was the largest aerial attack on the capital of Ukraine since the beginning of the 3-year war. Altogether, Russia sent 900 drones into Ukraine over the weekend. President Trump responded on his Truth Social account, calling Putin, quote, "absolutely crazy," end quote, reports the Financial Times.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people. I don't know what happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
And Trump warned that any attempt on the part of Russia to take all of Ukraine would, quote, lead to the downfall of Russia, end quote. As the World View reported on Friday, Trump's big, beautiful bill passed the House of Representatives by a single vote on Thursday. The major highlights of the bill include tax cuts, the elimination of $700 million of Planned Parenthood funding, a national private school dollar-for-dollar tax credit to scholarship donors, and an expanded child tax credit. We can expect maybe even a bigger fight in the Senate over the spending bill. Republican senators are split on the bill. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri does not want to cut Medicaid spending, and Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky described the spending cuts this way.
I support spending cuts. I think the cuts currently in the bill are wimpy and anemic.
The Texas legislature has approved a bill requiring the posting of the 10 Commandments in public schools throughout the state come September. Ironically, they passed the bill on the Sabbath, breaking the 4th commandment. The bill heads back to the Senate, after which Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott is expected to sign it into law. A similar law, enacted recently in Louisiana, is hung up in a federal court. The state of Oregon's demographics are not doing well. The state now has more elderly over 65 years of age than children under 18 years of age, presenting a demographic challenge, reports the Oregonian. In 1985, there were twice as many children as elderly. At this rate, in 10 more years, Oregon will have 40% more seniors than children. The state holds the position as the 8th worst demographic in the nation. The other states are located on the eastern seaboard. Oregon was the first state to legalize physician-assisted suicide. That was in 1994. Here's what God says in Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. "I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your descendants may live." The U.S. construction industry should beware. Inventory of new homes has reached 2007 levels, now 500,000 on the market, up from 150,000 homes in 2012. America is the most generous nation in the world by a long shot. That's the conclusion in the most recent Global Philanthropy Report produced by the Lilly Foundation. The United States is the highest charitable contributor to other nations by percentage of gross national income. With a total of $50 billion of philanthropic outflow, Americans contribute 70% of the world's philanthropic outflow to other nations, whereas it only makes up 4% of the world's population. Other generous nations include the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, Switzerland, France, Netherlands, Australia, and South Korea. And finally, Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty fame has died at the age of 79. His family announced Sunday that he has gone to be with the Lord. Willie and Corey Robertson Instagrammed that, quote, "He reminded us often of the words of Paul, 'You do not grieve like those who have no hope, for we believe that Jesus died and rose again. And so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him.'" Phil said, quote, "When I die, don't cry. Sing, dance, but don't cry when I die. When I die, you say, 'He made it,'" end quote. His son and daughter-in-law spoke of the lives who, quote, "have been impacted by his life, saved by grace, his bold faith, and by his desire to tell everyone who would listen the good news of Jesus," end quote. Listen to Phil share his love of evangelism in this excerpt from his Unashamed podcast.
It's been the most exciting one thing I've ever done in my life.
What?
To see people go from lost to saved.
Oh, that's right.
It's the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life, is being a part of that. The guy that ordered the duck call, that's all he wanted was a duck call. And in the midst of that, he cursed God, GD this and GD that. Before he hung up, he said, "You got my duck call coming?" I said, "Yeah, I got it coming." I said, "By the way, why do you keep cursing the only one that could save you from death?" And it was silence. Well, he said, "Hey, send me my duck call." Well, about 10 minutes went by and the phone rang. He said, "Hey, it's me again. You know what? I never thought about that." I said, "Well, you're cursing him unless he can get you out of here alive. I don't know no one else that could. You know what you ought to do? You ought to come over here and I'll tell you about the one you're cursing. You may change your mind." He said, "I might do that." I said, "Well, you ought to." Well, a week goes by, I knock on the door. He steps in the door and he said, "I'm the one that was cursing God, and you told me you're going to show me why I shouldn't." So I told him about Jesus. He was converted. About 15 or 20 years later, I ran into him, and he was one of the leaders at that church where I was speaking. So you never know.
The Duck Dynasty reality program aired on A&E between 2012 and 2017. At its peak, the reality program reached 10 million viewers. Sadly, the network pulled the program after Phil Robertson referred to homosexual behavior as, quote, sinful, end quote. And that's the Worldview on this Tuesday, May 27th, in the year of our Lord 2025. Subscribe for free by Spotify, Amazon Music, or by iTunes or email to our unique Christian newscast at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. Seize the day for Jesus Christ.